Sure, it only took me 15 minutes to sign up, but no one made me aware of the headache that was waiting for me when I tried to pay my bill. That's right, today we are redesigning the Geico bill pay interface, and this one is, of course, quite personal and close to me because I recently switched to Geico for various reasons. However, I went to set up my auto payments the other day and realized that it was very cumbersome, in fact. Taking a look at the UI here, you can see that it is stricken with the hallmarks of the standard corporate website problems. Particularly, they're using lots of different UI components without very much consistency, lots of blues, lots of inline elements that shouldn't be inline elements, and everything's just taking up way too much space generally. This reminds me of the Blue Cross Blue Shield redesign that I did way back a couple of years ago on my very first episode of Demystifying Design. But we're going to take this and we're going to turn it into something really easy to use, really clean, modern payment processor. So here we have, as usual, the style guide. Nothing crazy here. Blacks, grays, various blues, and they're using Lato for their body and header font. We're just going to keep that as is so that we can, not cheat as much as we normally do. And of course, we've got our user stories, as always. A small list, but an important list. I want to be able to track down my invoice using my phone number. A clever way to figure out your invoice, if I do say so. +1 to Geico. But I also want to pay that invoice with one of various payment methods. I want to schedule a payment, schedule automatic payments, and then make a partial payment if I'm ever, strapped for cash or trying to bolster my cash flow for that month. And then finally, as with most of the interfaces we design here on Demystifying Design, if something goes horribly wrong, I want to be able to contact support to get that sorted out quickly. So, gonna go ahead and get started here and see what we come up with. I'll hit you guys up in a little bit once I'm done. Whenever I have a contained set of steps that need to happen in series and there's no major deviation from those steps, I almost always reach for a standard wizard process, a stepper, if you will, that will move users through the steps in the order we need them to, and also gives them a little more context about what they're doing in that step. This is a design pattern that works almost every time you have some kind of really specific building process, and it's something you definitely want to have in your toolkit when the time comes. I've been doing this a lot lately in Figma. When I want to create a button component, I'll create some text in the middle and put an icon on each side, both of which are optional and exist as instance swaps. So I can swap out whichever icon I want, or just show one on the left, or just show one on the right. Super flexible way of creating buttons in Figma. Veterans of the Demystifying Design channel are probably noticing a bit of a pattern here. I'm a big fan of putting the need help experience in the upper right somewhere, usually quite close to the context in which help is usually needed, I think there's a pretty well-established heuristic that that's where to go. That's where users will expect to go, rather, if something goes wrong, either to the right of it or below that particular sequence. And here you're going to see me playing around with lots of different ways to display the header for this page, the primary page header. And this is something I do all the time in design, and it's something that doesn't really get very much attention. A lot of times when you're trying to design a very particular experience, you just have to try two different extremes off over and over until you arrive at the sweet spot. So you'll move a title way down into the body. Does it work there? Not sure. What about way back up in the header navigation? And you just kind of ping pong between them until you arrive at kind of the Goldilocks solution. So don't be worried about going back and forth and redoing things as you design. Often it's really just the process of whittling away at some kind of really difficult, complex experience until you have something very nuanced. Again, you've probably seen this pattern elsewhere on the channel, but usually when you're dealing with a label and a value pair, so for instance here, the label would be your remaining balance is, and the value would be 346.97, you generally want the value to be the larger of the two attributes. And that's because it's the most meaningful piece of data. You don't really need to know very much about the label, and over time people are going to learn what the label is and where it lives, but the value changes, so that needs to capture the most amount of visual attention. When you're working with toggle switch components like this, if you want to indicate that a switch is on, you want to change two attributes at least. And in this situation, we're changing both the color and the position of the knob, which kind of sends to the user the obvious signal that it is on when the knob is to the right and off when the knob is to the left. For this last step, given that a user is kind of looking to pay a significant amount of money, it's kind of important that we confirm that everything's correct before we initiate the wire transfer. So in this situation, just giving a brief text-based summary, or as you'll see, I later change it to a block-based summary that reviews everything about the transaction, helps to assuage the user and help them feel comfortable clicking that button at the bottom, which is very committing. You noticing a familiar pattern here? This label value pattern is something that happens all the time in design. So it's really important you just kind of keep it in mind whenever you have to display some kind of organized, structured data. And as I mentioned at the start, just ping-ponging around on different design decisions. Here you're seeing me move the header back up to the very top of the page because it just didn't seem to feel natural where it was there. And that's okay. Sometimes you have to go back and forth a lot to arrive at the appropriate solution. Take that, you filthy green lizard. Yeah, that's right. It didn't take me 15 minutes, although the video will hopefully be under 15 minutes. But damn it, here we are. I think at this point we've arrived at a kind of payment portal that is quite easy to use. All the steps are contained in one place. I don't have to jump between systems to do lots of separate tasks. The ability to reach out for help is very easily apparent to me as a user. I can flow through each of these steps as I need to, with everything being very clearly presented to me in context when I need it. And then I can, easily go ahead and make a payment here and confirm that everything's okay. I feel like an interface like this would solicit people to pay a little more often than they would otherwise. I would imagine that there is a very small population of people that don't pay their bills who don't do so just because they find the interface particularly cumbersome and difficult to use. So I feel like there's real value in a redesign like this. But anyway, hope you found this useful. Let me know what other content you'd like to do. I think I might do something that's a little simpler in the next one because I really want to focus on polishing everything up. I feel like I've just been, banging these up pretty quickly. But if you disagree, if you'd like to see something else, please leave a comment and I'll see what I can get done. Thanks again, guys. Have a lovely week and I'll see you next week.